She opened a Christmas gift that wasn't meant for her, and the truth inside didn't just threaten her marriage, it rewrote everything she thought she knew about love. I'm attorney Nora Ellington, and before we begin, make sure you subscribe because the case you're about to hear is one that challenged every instinct I have as a lawyer, and every belief I had about love, betrayal, and the timing of truth. It began 3 days before Christmas. My office was unusually quiet for the season, no jingling bells, no warm lights, just the heavy silence that seems to fall over people who come to lawyers during the holidays. People don't seek us out in December unless something inside their life has cracked. That morning, Lena Hartwell walked in. She wasn't crying. She wasn't frantic. She wasn't even angry. But her hands told the story before she did. They shook the way a person shakes when they've touched something they were never meant to find. She held a beautifully wrapped green and silver Christmas box. The kind of wrapping that takes time, patience, intention. The tag said her name, just her first name written in warm cursive letters, for Lena. But Lena told me immediately the handwriting wasn't her husband's Mark's. And Mark wasn't the type to mail gifts. He was practical, busy, often distracted, but not unkind. They'd been married 6 years. Solid, stable, predictable, at least she thought so. She told me the package arrived at 7 a.m., left neatly on the porch. No delivery worker in sight. No security footage. Their front camera had coincidentally been offline for the last 2 days. Coincidentally, Lena whispered, as if testing the word. I invited her to sit, and she placed the box between us like evidence in a trial that hadn't begun yet. Her voice trembled, but she didn't hesitate. When I opened it, she said, I knew immediately this wasn't meant for me. Inside the box was a delicate gold bracelet, thin, elegant, expensive in a quiet way, not a showy one. The kind of gift someone gives when they know your taste deeply, or when every sentimental detail matters. On the bracelet, engraved so softly it could have been overlooked, was a date. 12/24/2017, Christmas Eve, 7 years ago. Not her wedding date, not her birthday, not the day she met Mark. She told me she asked him once what happened in his life in 2017. His answer had been vague. Something about traveling for work, something about a project that didn't pan out, something about a Christmas he didn't want to talk about. But the bracelet wasn't what terrified her. It was the note under it. A small folded slip of paper, handwritten, 4 words only, still waiting for you. I felt the shift in her voice when she said them, like saying the words again made them heavier. She looked at me then, really looked at me. Not as a lawyer, but as someone who might understand the part she didn't want to say out loud. When Mark saw the note, she whispered, he didn't ask who sent it. He didn't say it was a mistake. He didn't accuse anyone. He didn't reassure me. What did he do? I asked. She swallowed. Her eyes shimmered, but she didn't let the tears fall. He walked away, slowly, like a man who had just seen the past catch up to him. I've heard thousands of stories in my career. Affairs, secrets, lies, but the silence that follows truth, that's where the real story usually is. That silence is what told me this wasn't random. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't misdelivery. This was history, someone's history. Someone who believed Mark owed them something. Someone who believed he remembered them or should remember them. Why come to me? I asked. Because, Lena said, I'm not here to find out who sent the gift. I'm here to find out who my husband used to be. And that told me everything. She wasn't hunting for betrayal. She wasn't searching for scandal. She was searching for truth, the kind that shakes the foundation of a marriage not because it's ugly, but because it's real and deeply unfinished. I asked if I could examine the bracelet. She handed it to me with such care, as if touching it might break the life she had built. The engraving was soft, almost intimate. A date chosen for a reason known only to 2 people, and Lena wasn't one of them. When I unfolded the note, something else struck me. The handwriting, it didn't look rushed, it didn't look angry or desperate, it looked hopeful. Hopeful in a way that doesn't belong in a message meant to destroy someone's marriage. Hope is heavier than spite, it lingers. Tell me everything, I said, and she did. She told me how she and Mark met unexpectedly, beautifully in a bookstore cafe. How he was gentle but guarded. How he loved Christmas lights but hated Christmas Eve. How he avoided conversations about the year before they met. How he once said very quietly, some love stories don't end. They just get paused. She thought it was poetic at the time. Now she wasn't so sure. I asked her the question every client dreads. Do you believe your husband was unfaithful? She shook her head instantly. No, that's the strange part. I believe he loved someone once deeply, and I believe losing her broke him, but I don't think he ever lied to me. I think he lied to himself. I've learned in my years of practice. People don't fear betrayal as much as they fear unfinished love. A past that still breathes, still waits, still believes it has a chance. And whoever sent that bracelet, they weren't trying to steal Mark. They were trying to remind him of something he never resolved. A promise, a moment, a night that mattered. A love story frozen in time, Christmas Eve, 2017. I asked Lena if she had confronted him again after that morning. She said no, something in his face had stopped her. Something fragile, something like guilt, but not the kind that comes from cheating, the kind that comes from grief. Tell me what you want from this investigation, I said. She inhaled slowly. I want to know who the bracelet was meant for. I want to know what happened that Christmas Eve. I want to know why someone waited 7 years to send this. And most of all, I want to know if Mark is still haunted by a life that didn't include me. Her voice cracked then for the first time. Because if he is, I need to know whether I'm married to the man he became or the man he used to be. I sat back, processing her words. This wasn't a case of infidelity. This wasn't a case of manipulation. This was a deeply human case, a collision between past and present, between a love that ended and a love that began. But someone somewhere believed the story wasn't finished. And they chose this Christmas, this week, this moment to reopen it. I agreed to take the case. But as she left my office, something struck me, her expression. Painful, yes. Confused, absolutely. But beneath the layers of fear, there was something else. Courage. People think love makes you fragile, but sometimes it does the opposite. Sometimes love makes you brave enough to face the ghost someone else tried to bury. When she was gone, I turned the bracelet over again in my hand. 12/24/2017, Christmas Eve, the night the world pauses for love, loss, miracles, and memories that won't let go. Someone sent this to Mark, not to destroy him, but to remind him. But of what and why now and why through his wife? One thing was certain: this wasn't a threat. It was an invitation, a doorway back into a chapter he never closed. And before the end of this investigation, before Christmas morning arrived, that bracelet would reveal a truth none of us were prepared for. Not Lena, not Mark, not even me. Because the gift wasn't just a reminder of a past love. It was a revelation that would rewrite everything they believed about their marriage and expose the real reason someone had been waiting all these years. A reason that had nothing to do with betrayal and everything to do with the twist you never see coming. I didn't sleep much the night after meeting Lena Hartwell. Cases like hers don't keep you awake because they're tragic, they keep you awake because they're unfinished. You can feel the story breathing in the dark, waiting for you to follow the trail it's quietly laying out. The bracelet sat on my desk under my lamp, the gold catching the light like a whisper. That engraved date, 12/24/2017, almost glowed. The note beside it, handwritten and heartbreakingly hopeful. Still waiting for you. I've handled hundreds of messages like that, most carry bitterness. Some carry threats, but this one carried something else entirely. Longing. Someone out there loved Mark Hartwell enough to wait 7 years, 7 Christmases. 7 December nights of remembering something he had forgotten or forced himself to forget. But why send the reminder through his wife? What kind of love survives like that? The next morning, I drove to the Hartwell residence. I told Lena I needed to speak with both of them separately. Christmas lights wrapped around the pillars of their porch, soft, white, and warm, but there was something hollow about them. Decorations without joy feel like props. Lena answered the door with puffy eyes but a steady voice. He's in the study, she said quietly, but he doesn't know you're coming. That was good. Surprises reveal truths, prepared answers hide. As she led me down the hallway, the house told its own story. Pictures of vacations, birthdays, anniversaries. Smiles that were genuine but always with a hint of distance on Mark's face, like a man who was present but not fully alive in the moment. We reached the study. She paused before knocking. Before you talk to him, she whispered, I need to tell you something I didn't say yesterday. Her fingers twisted around each other, anxious. Last night I asked him about the bracelet again. I didn't accuse him, I didn't yell, I just asked a simple question. What did you ask? I said. Mark, who were you on Christmas Eve 2017? Her lips trembled. And he said, someone I'm not proud of. That was the first crack, not a confession, not a denial, a confession of character, not action. Sometimes that's more meaningful. Did he elaborate? I asked. She shook her head. He just said a name. One word, softly, like it hurt to say it. What name? Her voice lowered. Ava, and there it was, the first thread. I thanked her, then stepped into the study. Mark Hartwell sat behind his desk, fingers laced together, eyes dark and tired. He wasn't defensive, he wasn't angry, he looked like a man waiting for something inevitable. Attorney Ellington, he said quietly. Lena told me she met with you. I'm assuming you're here about the box. I didn't sit yet, I watched him. People reveal more when they feel your eyes before your words. Yes, I said softly, we need to talk. His jaw tightened, his gaze lowered, and then something unexpected. He didn't ask who sent it, he didn't deny anything. He didn't say it was a misunderstanding. He said, I knew this day would come. That wasn't guilt, that was sorrow. Mark, I said, I'm not here to judge you, I'm here to understand what happened. He exhaled slowly, like releasing a secret he'd held too long. I wasn't unfaithful, he whispered, but I wasn't honest either, not with her, not with myself. He looked toward the window where snow had begun to fall softly. Christmas Eve 2017, he said. I was supposed to propose to someone. The air in the room tightened. Ava, I said. His eyes snapped to mine, surprised, hurt, exposed, but he nodded. Yes, Ava, he swallowed. She and I were together for 3 years. We had our moments, good ones, bad ones, but that night that was supposed to be our new beginning. What happened? I asked. He closed his eyes. She never showed up. He leaned back, emotion rippling through him like a wave he had been fighting for 7 long years. I had the ring, I had the reservation, I had everything ready, and she didn't come. I let the silence hold us for a moment. Pain lives in pauses like that. Did she explain, call, leave a message? He shook his head. She vanished. Not disappeared, just ended things without words. I waited at that restaurant for 4 hours. I told myself she'd walk through the doors any minute. He looked down at his hands. And when she didn't, something inside me broke in a way I didn't know how to repair. I let him speak. I needed him to fill the silence. Did she contact you after that night? I asked gently. He hesitated. No, he whispered. Not once, not a call, not a text, not even an explanation, nothing. She erased herself. But someone didn't erase him, someone waited. Someone believed he still belonged to a moment he couldn't finish. I pulled out the bracelet, setting it gently on the desk. Do you recognize this? His eyes widened, not with guilt but with grief. I haven't seen that in years, he whispered. That was Ava's, and that changed everything. You bought it for her? I asked. He shook his head. No, she bought it herself. She loved minimal jewelry. She wore that bracelet every day. The room grew heavy. And the date on it? I prompted. The night I planned to propose, he said quietly. She engraved it because she liked remembering things before they happened. She said it made hope feel real. He ran a hand through his hair. I never saw that bracelet again after she left. So how had it arrived at his door now? And the note? I asked. He didn't reach for it. He didn't want to touch it. Instead, he whispered, she used to write notes like that, short. Simple, but always full of meaning. She'd leave them on my windshield, my coffee mug, my coat pocket. He looked at me finally, eyes wet. Why would she send this now? That, I told him, was exactly what I intended to find out. But then I asked something I had intentionally saved till the end. Mark, did Ava have any family? Anyone who might know about this bracelet? His answer came out slowly. She had a younger sister, but I never met her. And Ava always said their relationship was complicated. Do you know her name? He hesitated, and then, Maya. The shift in his face told me something important. Mark, I said carefully, there's something you're not telling me. His throat tightened, his stare dropped. I don't know how to say this without sounding cruel, he whispered. But Ava had struggles, emotional ones. She was beautiful, but she carried darkness. She didn't trust easily, she didn't forgive easily. He paused, and she didn't leave quietly. She left like someone running from something or someone. That was the first sign this wasn't a love triangle. This was a wound. Did you try to find her? I asked. At first, he said. But she changed her number, deleted her social media, moved out of her apartment, and after 6 months, I stopped chasing someone who clearly didn't want to be found. He exhaled deeply. And then I met Lena. She saved me in ways she doesn't know. There was love in his voice when he said her name. Real love. So if he truly loved his wife, why send her a reminder of the woman he lost, unless he didn't send it? And unless Ava wasn't the one who vanished by choice. As I stood, preparing to leave, I told him something I hoped would open him further. Mark, whatever this is, it's not about infidelity, it's about closure. He nodded. I know. But Nora, if you find Ava, if she's alive, please don't let her hurt Lena. His voice broke. That was the sentence of a man who feared two things, the past coming back and the woman he loved paying the price. When I walked out of the study, Lena was waiting in the hallway, eyes searching mine. Well, she whispered. And for the first time since the case began, I had no clear answer to give her. Lena, I said gently, I think someone wants your husband to confront a chapter he never finished. But I don't think this is about betrayal. I think this is about something deeper. Deeper how? She asked. I looked toward the snow falling outside their window. I think someone out there believes your husband never got the truth he deserved. Her breath caught. About what? I met her eyes. About why Ava vanished and why someone waited 7 years to send you her bracelet. Lena's voice trembled. Nora, do you think she's alive? I didn't answer. Not yet, because there was one possibility even more unsettling. Someone else sent it, someone who knew the story, someone who wasn't finished. And as I stepped outside into the cold winter air, I knew exactly where I needed to go next. The last place anyone saw Ava Hartwell on Christmas Eve, 2017, because love stories don't disappear, they leave footprints, and this one was finally melting through the snow. The wind was sharper than usual when I stepped outside the Hartwell home that morning, as if the cold itself was trying to warn me that this case wasn't the kind you solve with paperwork and neat timelines. This was a story buried in snow, silence, and 7 years of unanswered questions. I sat in my car for a moment, the heater humming softly, the bracelet's photo pulled up on my phone. That date, 12/24/2017, glowed once again like a wound, a proposal that never happened, a woman who never arrived, a love story that vanished in one night, and now, a message that said still waiting for you. Waiting for who, for what, for closure, for revenge, for truth. The first place I needed to go was clear. The restaurant where Ava was supposed to meet Mark on Christmas Eve, the last place she was ever expected to be seen. It was called Valero's, an upscale Italian restaurant tucked into a corner of the city's old district. I remembered it well, candlelit tables, a piano, the faint smell of rosemary and warm bread. A place where memories attach themselves to walls. When I arrived, the building was decorated with garlands and soft lights. Inside, Christmas music drifted faintly near the bar. The hostess, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, looked up as I entered. Table for one? She asked warmly. I pulled out my badge. Nora Ellington, attorney. I was hoping to speak with the manager about an event on December 24th, 2017. Her expression shifted curiosity, caution, and something else. Recognition, maybe. One moment, she said quietly. While she walked away, my eyes scanned the room. On the right side, a small table near the window, 2 chairs, a perfect view of the falling snow outside. A place you'd choose for a proposal if you wanted beauty to witness a moment. I walked toward it slowly, imagining Mark sitting there for 4 hours, holding a ring he never got to give. When the manager approached, he was a tall man with peppered hair and a polite but tired smile. "Is this about the Hartwell reservation?" he asked before I introduced myself. That caught me off guard. "You remember it?" he nodded. "Very clearly, it's hard to forget the ones that go wrong." He gestured for me to sit at the bar, away from guests. "Mr. Hartwell came in early that night," he began. He looked nervous, excited. "You see a lot of proposals here, but he had a sincerity about him that stuck with us." "What happened when Ava didn't show?" I asked. The manager sighed. "At first, he kept checking his watch, then his phone, then the door. He looked hopeful for a long time. After an hour, concern started to replace excitement, then confusion, then something like heartbreak." He glanced toward the window table. "He ordered water, just water, didn't touch it, didn't drink. Just waited for 4 hours," I said softly. "Yes," the manager replied. "And when he finally stood up, he apologized to me for wasting the table. That's the kind of man he was." I made a mental note. That detail mattered. "Did Ava ever contact you?" I asked. "Never," he said, "but..." He paused. "Someone else did." My body tensed. "Who?" "A woman called the restaurant 2 days after the missed reservation, asked if Mark had shown up that night. She didn't give her name." My pulse quickened. "What did she sound like?" "Young, soft-spoken, but I remember something strange. Her voice shook like she was afraid of the answer. That didn't sound like someone who was running away intentionally. It sounded like someone looking back with regret or grief." "Did she leave a number?" I asked. "No, and the call came from a blocked ID. Which meant this woman didn't want to be found, but she did want to know one thing. Did Mark keep his promise?" And he had, but she hadn't. I thanked the manager and stepped outside into the cold again. Snow gathered on the hood of my car as I leaned against it, thinking. Ava had engraved a date on a bracelet, a moment she believed in before it even happened. But someone stole that moment. Someone interrupted that night. Someone knew what that bracelet meant, and someone waited 7 years to send it back. The next step was to find Ava's younger sister, Maya. People with unfinished stories usually leave emotional breadcrumbs behind, and siblings carry the heaviest ones. Finding Maya wasn't hard. Talking to her, that was the problem. Her digital footprint was minimal, a few photos, an old blog, no recent posts. But she worked at a small floral shop downtown called Evergreen Petals. I drove there immediately. The bell above the door chimed softly as I entered. The shop smelled like pine, eucalyptus, and delicate winter roses. A young woman behind the counter arranged a bouquet, her movements precise but distant, as if her mind was somewhere else. "Maya?" I asked. She froze, not dramatically but enough. Her shoulders stiffened before she slowly turned. Her eyes were a deep, dark brown, tired, guarded, beautiful in a melancholy way. "Yes," she said quietly. I introduced myself. She didn't smile, she didn't frown. She just studied me like she'd been expecting someone to come eventually but dreaded it. "I'm here about your sister Ava," I said. She inhaled sharply, fingers tightening around a stem of eucalyptus until it snapped. "I don't talk about her," Maya whispered. "Someone does," I replied gently. "Someone sent her bracelet to Lena Hartwell." Her eyes widened completely, unmistakably, with genuine shock. "What bracelet?" she asked, voice trembling. I pulled up the photo. Her reaction hit her like a storm. "Maya," I said softly, "do you recognize it?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, Ava wore that bracelet every day. It was her favorite." Her voice broke. "She never took it off." "Until," I asked softly. She didn't answer. Instead, she turned away, eyes glistening. "I don't understand," she whispered. "How did you get that? Where did it come from?" "Ava lost that bracelet before." "Before what?" "Maya," I said quietly, stepping closer. "What happened to your sister?" Silence. Not empty silence, heavy silence. The kind that holds back truth like water pressing behind a dam. Finally, she spoke. "Ava didn't leave because she wanted to," she said in a shaking voice. "She left because she had to." I felt my chest tighten. "Why?" She swallowed. "Because she was being followed." That sentence changed the entire trajectory of the investigation. Followed by who, why, and how did that connect to Mark? Before I could speak, Maya continued. "She didn't tell Mark. She didn't want him involved. She thought she could handle it alone." "But she didn't," I whispered. Maya's tears fell onto the flowers on the counter. "No," she said, "she didn't." My heartbeat quickened, the mystery deepening, sharpening. "Maya," I asked softly, "is your sister alive?" She lifted her gaze to mine. Her expression wasn't grief. It wasn't denial, it wasn't fear, it was something harder, something colder, something final. "My sister died 5 years ago," Maya whispered. "Ava is gone." The world seemed to freeze in that moment. If Ava was dead, who sent the bracelet, who wrote the note, who waited 7 years, and why send it to Lena, not Mark? Before I could speak, Maya added something that chilled me deeper than the winter air outside. But someone out there doesn't want the truth about Ava's death to stay buried. And whoever they are, she swallowed hard. They're sending you a message. What message? I asked. She closed her eyes. That Ava didn't just disappear from Mark's life, someone erased her. My breath hitched. And I think, Maya whispered, they're finally ready to reveal who did it. For a long moment, the world inside that small flower shop stopped breathing. The soft hum of the refrigerator cases, the whisper of petals brushing against Maya's trembling hands, everything fell silent under the weight of 5 impossible words. My sister died 5 years ago. Ava, the woman who vanished without explanation, the woman who engraved a date she believed in, the woman someone claimed to still be waiting for, dead. But then another truth followed, colder than the snow gathering outside. Someone erased her. Not lost, not disappeared, not left, erased. I stared at Maya, watching her chest rise and fall unevenly as she tried to hold herself together. Grief was written across her face, not fresh grief, but the kind that had settled into her bones, the kind that had matured into a quiet daily ache. Maya, I said softly, I'm sorry, truly. But I need you to guide me from the beginning, I need to understand. She wiped her tears with the sleeve of her sweater and nodded slowly. Follow me, she whispered. She led me to a small back room away from customers. A cramped office with peeling wallpaper, a desk cluttered with invoices, and a bulletin board covered with dried flowers and old photos. Among them, a picture of 2 sisters. Ava was unmistakable. Hair slightly wavy, smile soft, eyes bright with something both hopeful and mischievous. A woman who felt deeply. A woman who didn't just love, she believed in love, and now she was gone. Maya pulled out a worn folder from a drawer. She placed it on the desk as though it were fragile, like touching it too roughly would shatter the memories inside. This is everything I have, she whispered. Everything anyone ever bothered to record. I opened the folder carefully. Inside were newspaper clippings, a few police reports, and a stack of handwritten notes in Maya's shaky handwriting. But one document stood out, a missing person report dated January 3, 2018. 10 days after the proposal night. The report stated that Ava was last seen outside her apartment building around 8 p.m. She was wearing a black coat, carrying a small bag, and appeared distressed. No witnesses. No follow-up leads. Case closed after 8 months due to insufficient evidence. Maya, I said gently, why wasn't this ever brought to Mark? Why didn't the police contact him? He was her partner. That's what I never understood, she whispered. Ava listed him as her emergency contact everywhere. Her phone records had his number starred, but when I asked the police why he didn't get a call, she paused, voice trembling. They said the number on file was marked inactive. I frowned. What do you mean inactive? They said the voicemail was full and calls weren't going through. They assumed it was disconnected. That made no sense. Mark had never changed his number. He told me that himself. He even showed me the call logs going back 10 years. So how did Ava's emergency contact number suddenly become inactive? 2 possibilities. 1. A clerical error, unlikely but possible. 2. Someone intentionally altered the emergency contact information. Far more likely given the pattern forming. Someone wanted Mark out of the loop. Someone wanted him unaware. Someone wanted Ava isolated. Maya, I said, what happened after she went missing? How did you find out she was gone? She sat down, exhaustion folding her posture inward. It was 5 months later, she whispered. They found, her voice cracked. They found her car. Where? I asked quietly. Off a back road near Grayson Park. It had gone into the river. They said the currents carried it, made it impossible to notice from the bridge. And Ava? I asked, careful not to sound too clinical. She shook her head as tears slid down her cheeks. She wasn't inside, not a trace, just her coat, and the bracelet was missing. The bracelet, the one that just arrived in a Christmas box, wrapped with love or with meaning, sent anonymously. Delivered deliberately. The same bracelet she allegedly lost before her death. That was no coincidence. Maya, I said, did the police ever classify this as an accident or foul play? She let out a bitter, humorless laugh. They called it an unresolved incident, their favorite label when they don't want to admit they have nothing. Unresolved, unfinished, just like her love story. I placed the bracelet photo in front of her. Do you believe Ava ran away from someone that night? I asked. Maya nodded, but her expression tightened with memory. Yes, she told me someone was following her, she didn't know who. She thought at first she was imagining it, just stress, but it kept getting worse. What exactly did she tell you? She said she'd walk home and feel someone behind her, at the grocery store, at the library, even outside this shop. She saw the same gray car more than once. She didn't want to scare Mark. Did she ever describe the person? I asked. She said it was a man, tall, always wearing a cap, but she never saw his face. My mind raced through every angle. A stalker, a jealous ex, a stranger obsession, a family grudge, or something even more complicated. Then Maya added something new, something heavier. That night before she left for that restaurant, she told me she felt something was wrong. She said she felt watched. And you let her go alone? I asked gently. She flinched. No, she didn't go alone. I drove her to the restaurant. I waited in the parking lot for 30 minutes. She said she wanted to walk inside by herself, said it was her moment. She wanted to feel independent, strong. And after that, I asked. I left, she whispered. She said she'd call me later. My heart sank, she never called. Did you see anything unusual that night? Anyone lingering? Any cars following when you left? She hesitated. There was one car, she said slowly. A dark sedan, parked 2 spaces away, a man inside. He wasn't eating, wasn't waiting for anyone, just sitting there staring at the entrance. Did you report that? I asked. Yes, but the police said parking lots are full of strange people. They didn't follow up. Of course they didn't. Cases without immediate violence often slip through cracks formed by overworked officers and underfunded departments. But someone followed Ava. Someone scared Ava. Someone drove her off the path of the life she planned with Mark. I took a breath. Maya, who is the someone you believe erased her? She closed her eyes as if bracing herself. I don't know his name, she whispered. Ava never knew either. But she said something once the night before she vanished. What did she say? She said, if anything happens to me, it won't be because of someone I loved, it will be because of someone who loved me the wrong way. A chill spread through me. Loved me the wrong way. Obsession, possession, control. Do you think this person harmed her? I asked, her voice cracked. I don't know, but I know Ava didn't choose to disappear. I nodded slowly, absorbing the gravity. And the bracelet, you're absolutely certain she never had it after that night? Yes, Maya whispered. She lost it weeks before Christmas. Turned her apartment upside down looking for it. She thought maybe she misplaced it at a cafe or dropped it outside the shop. She was devastated, it was her favorite thing. So how did it end up in a box 7 years later? I said. That's why I'm terrified, Maya whispered. Someone found it, someone kept it, someone waited. And then sent it to Lena, not Mark, I murmured. Maya shook her head. No, I don't think it was for Lena. I think the sender knew Lena would show it to Mark, but I also think the sender wanted you involved. Me? I asked softly. She nodded. You're a lawyer who handles emotional cases. Abandonment, grief, closure. Whoever sent the bracelet knew exactly what opening this would do. My stomach tightened. Someone wanted this case reopened. Someone wanted an investigation. Someone wanted truth peeled back layer by painful layer. Then Maya said something that made my pulse stop. Nora, there's something else you need to know. What is it? She reached into the drawer and handed me a small envelope. A very old one, yellowed at the edges. This arrived for me last year, no return address, no note inside, just a single thing. What thing? She opened it. Inside was a photograph, a blurred picture of Ava, standing near a bus stop. Alive, moving, looking over her shoulder. The timestamp, March 15th, 2019. More than a year after the police declared her presumed dead, my breath caught. Ava didn't die when they said she did. Ava didn't vanish when they said she did. Someone kept her alive. Somewhere, somehow. Maya, I whispered, did you show this to anyone? She shook her head. No one would believe me. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if keeping quiet was protecting her or hurting her. But now, her voice broke. Now I think someone wants us to know the truth. I stared at the photo, tracing the blurred outline of Ava's face. Alive. 2 years after she vanished, carrying her own fear like a shadow. Then Maya whispered, I don't think the bracelet was a threat. I think it was a warning. Warning about what? I asked. She looked up at me with a fear deep enough to unsettle the strongest soul. That the person who took Ava isn't finished. And that one sentence told me something terrible. This wasn't just a mystery from the past. This was a danger unfolding in the present. And whoever sent that bracelet had just invited me and the Hartwells into the middle of a story that wasn't over. I left the flower shop with the photograph in my coat pocket, but the weight of it felt far heavier than paper. A blurred image, a timestamp, a woman who was supposed to be dead walking alone in the world, looking over her shoulder like the past was chasing her. Because it was, and now so was I. When I reached my car, I didn't turn on the engine immediately. Instead, I stared at Ava's face on the photograph, blurred but not enough to erase her expression. Fear, awareness. A moment caught just before she stepped into danger. The timestamp, March 15th, 2019, was proof that everything the world believed about her was wrong. She didn't die in the river. She didn't vanish into heartbreak. She didn't abandon Mark out of coldness. Someone kept her alive, and someone made sure she remained missing. I finally started the engine and drove away from the shop, the wipers clearing falling snow as my mind pieced together the fragments of her story. Ava wasn't running from Mark. She was running from someone else, a man she didn't know, a man who followed her everywhere, a man she feared, but who? I had 2 choices now. Option 1, confront Mark again. Option 2, find records of Ava's movements after 2017. Only one of those options would lead me to truth instead of emotional distraction. I drove straight to my office. Inside, the warmth of the building embraced me, but my mind stayed cold, sharp, awake. I placed the bracelet photo, the physical envelope from Maya, and the picture of Ava on my desk. A timeline began to form in my notes. December 24, 2017, Ava doesn't show up to proposal. January 3, 2018, missing person report filed. May 2018, her car found in river. 2019, she's seen alive. 2024, bracelet delivered to Lena Hartwell. 7 years of silence. 7 years of a story suffocated by the wrong conclusions. I needed more. I called a former colleague from my early days, Detective Ryan Calder, a man who had spent 20 years unraveling human darkness in alleyways and failed relationships. When he answered, his voice was rough but alert. Ellington, didn't expect you to call, thought you only dealt with emotional disasters now. I do, I said, but this one's different. I explained the story, the bracelet, the note. Maya's confession, the photograph. When I finished, there was a beat of silence. Nora, this isn't a cold case, he said. This is an active one. Whoever kept this girl off the grid didn't want her found. Someone powerful. Someone smart. Someone obsessed, I added. Possibly, he said, but obsession that lasts 7 years isn't obsession, it's fixation, and fixation leads to control. Control. The same word Ava used when describing the man who followed her. Calder exhaled sharply. I'll run the photo through old surveillance databases, missing person logs, traffic cams, but Nora, what? You need to be careful. If someone kept her hidden this long, sending the bracelet means they're shifting the game. They're choosing the players now, and they picked you. That thought lingered long after I hung up. Why me? Why involve a lawyer instead of law enforcement? Why wrap the bracelet so delicately? Why write still waiting for you? Waiting for who? Mark, Ava, or someone else entirely? I opened my laptop and focused on another angle, the restaurant. I needed to understand something deeper. Why Ava planned the proposal night so meticulously, yet vanished without taking the bracelet with her. If she lost it before Christmas and someone mailed it 7 years later, then someone took it from her long before she disappeared. Someone who had access to her life, someone who watched her closely enough to steal something precious, someone she didn't identify because she didn't know them. A stalker rarely introduces himself, he just observes, collects, waits. My doorbell startled me. It was late, nearly 9 p.m. when I opened the door. Lena Hartwell stood there, wrapped in a thick coat, her eyes red but determined. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I didn't know where else to go. I stepped aside. Come in. She walked into my office, her movements stiff and shaky as if her body was functioning on willpower alone. I talked to Mark, she whispered. About the bracelet, no, about Ava. I studied her closely. What did he say? Her voice softened, cracked. He said he never stopped wondering why she left. He said he waited for closure that never came. And he said something else. She looked at me with trembling eyes. He said he thinks the universe is punishing him. For what? I asked. She hesitated. For loving someone who got lost, that's what he said. That sentence carried weight, not guilt, not betrayal, but tragedy. Lena, I said softly, your husband is not hiding an affair, he's hiding pain. Her chin trembled. I know, that's what scares me. She reached into her bag and pulled out something I couldn't have anticipated, a letter. A handwritten letter dated last night. Mark wrote this, she whispered. He left it on my nightstand. I unfolded it carefully. Lena, if Nora finds her, if Ava is alive, please know that the man I was back then was not the man who married you. But the man I am today owes you the truth, even if it hurts. Mark, that wasn't a guilty man, that was a terrified one. Did you talk to him after reading this? I asked. She shook her head. He left early this morning. Didn't say where he was going, didn't answer my calls, he looked haunted. A terrible thought crossed my mind. What if Mark didn't leave because he's hiding something? I said quietly. What if he left because he senses someone is watching again? Lena's eyes widened. Nora, do you think he's in danger? I didn't answer right away. I called Detective Calder. He picked up instantly. We ran the timestamp photo, he said without greeting, and we found something. My heart pounded. What? A traffic camera caught the same woman, Ava, crossing a street 2 minutes after the bus stop photo. She wasn't alone. Lena froze. Who was she with? I asked. That's the problem, Calder said. We zoomed in. Enhancements aren't perfect on old footage, but Nora, the man next to her, was tall, wearing a cap. My mouth went dry. And his face, I whispered, barely visible but enough to run a comparison to DMV records. And, he exhaled, we got a partial match, 93% probability. Tell me, I said, his voice hardened. Nora, the man walking beside Ava in 2019, was not a stranger. Lena grabbed the edge of my desk, knuckles white. Calder continued. It was someone she knew, someone connected to her past. Someone who had a reason to keep her hidden. Who? I whispered. His answer chilled me. Her father, my breath caught. Ava never mentioned her father to Mark. Maya never mentioned him to me. It was as though he didn't exist. Is he alive? I asked. More than alive, Calder said. And there's something worse. He has a criminal past. Charges for coercion, unlawful confinement, psychological manipulation. My entire body tensed. Nora, he said urgently, if the father was controlling Ava, he may have been behind her disappearance. And if he sent that bracelet, then Lena whispered what we were all thinking. Then he's not done with us. Calder's final words burned into the room. Find Mark tonight before whoever controlled Ava decides to erase someone else. And that's when I realized this wasn't a cold case. This wasn't a love story. This wasn't even about grief anymore. This was about a dangerous man resurfacing to finish what he started 7 years ago. And Mark Hartwell, the man grieving a woman he lost and loving the woman he married, was now the next loose end in a story someone was desperate to keep buried. The moment Detective Calder said the words, find Mark, tonight, The room around me went still as if every object understood the danger before I fully did. Lena's face drained of color. Her fingers dug into the edge of my desk. Her lips parted but no sound left her. Not fear, not shock, something heavier. The sudden understanding that the man she loved wasn't just emotionally lost, he might be physically in danger. I stood immediately. Lena, we need to know where your husband went. She nodded, breathing shakily, struggling to steady herself. He left at sunrise, she whispered. He didn't take his car, he didn't take breakfast, just his coat. He walked out like he had somewhere specific to go. Does he have any friends nearby? I asked. No, Mark isn't close to many people. Any family he might confide in? She shook her head. He barely talks to his parents. And they live across the country. He wouldn't fly out without his ID, which is still at home. I paced the room, the photograph of Ava flashing through my mind, the blurred silhouette, the timestamp. The man beside her, her father, the shadow she feared but never named. Control, manipulation, obsession. A man like that doesn't just disappear, he waits, he watches. He resurfaces when the pieces line up again. And now the pieces were falling into place around Mark. Lena, I said, think. Did he mention anywhere that reminds him of Ava? Any place they used to visit? Anywhere that holds emotional weight? She swallowed hard. There was a place, she whispered, but he hasn't gone there in years. Where? A walking trail near Grayson Park. He and Ava used to go there on Sundays. It's where she said she went to think, to breathe, as she put it. My stomach tightened. Grayson Park, the same area where her car was found. I grabbed my coat. We're going, I said. Lena hesitated only a second before following me out the door. On the drive there, snowfall thickened, dancing across the windshield like static in a memory you're trying desperately to decode. The streets grew quieter, fewer lights, fewer cars, December's cold settling into the city's bones. Halfway there, Lena let out a trembling breath. Nora, do you think Mark is trying to find Ava? No, I said carefully, but I think he's trying to confront the ghost of who he used to be. She looked out the window, tears forming. He loved her, didn't he? I glanced at Lena. Lena, people can grieve someone they loved without betraying the person they love now. Closure doesn't equal infidelity. Silence doesn't equal secret. I paused. He wasn't running away from you, he was running toward answers. Her chin quivered, but she nodded. I know, I just don't want to lose him. You won't, I said, but someone else might want that. The car grew silent. When we reached Grayson Park, the sun had nearly vanished. The sky was a bruising purple, the trails coated with fresh snow, untouched except for one set of footprints leading deeper into the woods. Fresh footprints, heavy, male, alone. Lena gasped, that's him, Nora, that's Mark's stride. Stay close, I said, my voice low. We followed the trail through the trees, the air grew colder, sharper, biting at our lungs. The deeper we walked, the darker it became. Branches creaked overhead, the kind of silence that makes your instincts sharpen with every step. Then Lena froze. Do you hear that? She whispered. At first I heard nothing. Then I heard it, faint, distant, muffled, a voice, a man's voice. Sharp, angry, and another sound, something like a scuffle. I grabbed Lena's arm. We're close. We crept down a slope, following the noise. That's when we saw him. Mark Hartwell, standing in a small clearing surrounded by trees, breathing hard. Snow in his hair, his coat half open as if he'd been grabbed, and 3 feet in front of him a man tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a cap, the same outline from the surveillance footage, the same shadow Ava feared, her father. Lena gasped, her hand flying to her mouth, but Mark didn't turn. His eyes were locked on the man. I pulled her behind a tree. We watched, we listened. You shouldn't be here, the man said, his voice low, cold. You should have stayed out of it. She's gone, Mark's voice shook with a mix of grief and anger. What did you do to her? The man stepped closer. I protected her. Protected? Mark's voice cracked. You destroyed her. The man chuckled, a sound without warmth. You think you know her, you think you knew what she was going through. She was fragile, emotional, she needed structure. She needed someone who could control her before she ruined her life. My chest tightened, control, the same word. The same pattern. Mark took a step toward him. She told me someone was following her, he said. Was it you? The man didn't deny it. Following isn't the same as watching over, he replied. She made reckless choices. Trusting the wrong people, running from responsibility. I kept her safe, you didn't. Lena whispered, oh my God. The man glanced toward the woods, toward where we were. My pulse spiked. He knew, he wasn't just here for Mark. He expected us. I stepped forward. Nora, Lena whispered, terrified. I have to, I said. I emerged into the clearing. The man's eyes narrowed. You must be the lawyer, he said with unsettling calm. Mark's eyes widened. Nora. Lena, his face flooded with panic. No, you shouldn't be here. It's too late, the man said. I stood my ground. You sent the bracelet, I said. You reactivated a story you worked hard to bury. Why? His smile tightened. Because he needed to stop searching. He wasn't searching, I countered. He was surviving. For the first time, something in the man's expression flickered annoyance. Mark stepped between us. Where is she? He demanded. Where is Ava? The man exhaled slowly as if tired of the charade. She's gone, Mark. That's all you need to know. And that photograph from 2019, I challenged. What about that? His jaw clenched. A mistake, he said. She ran, she always ran, but she couldn't escape herself or me. That slip told me everything. He hadn't protected Ava, he had confined her, controlled her, possibly moved her, kept her hidden. She escaped once, long enough to be photographed, and he found her again. Lena stepped forward now, trembling but brave. "What did you do to her?" she whispered. The man glared at her with chilling indifference. She was weak. Silence tore through the clearing. That sentence, that cruelty, that cold rationalization of harm, it was enough. Mark lunged. It wasn't a rational move, it wasn't smart, it wasn't safe, it was human. Pent-up heartbreak, rage, guilt, and grief exploded inside him all at once. The men collided into the snow, struggling, branches snapping under their weight. Lena screamed. I grabbed her back. "Stay behind me," but the man was strong, disturbingly strong. He shoved Mark down, raised a hand, struck him across the cheek with brutal force. "You should have stayed out of this," he shouted. I grabbed a thick fallen branch. "Nora, don't," Lena cried, but I didn't hesitate. I swung. The branch crashed against the man's shoulder, sending him stumbling sideways. Mark scrambled to his feet, shaking, bleeding but conscious. The man turned toward me slowly, hatred burning behind his eyes. "You're making a mistake, Attorney Ellington." "Maybe," I said, "but I'm making it loudly." He advanced toward me, step by cold step, but then flashing lights. Siren wail, Detective Calder's voice booming through the trees. "Freeze, hands where we can see them." The man didn't freeze. He ran straight into the shadows of the deeper woods. Officers chased him, their flashes slicing through the darkness until his figure vanished completely. Mark collapsed onto the snow, gasping. Lena dropped beside him, holding him, crying into his coat. I knelt in front of them. "Mark," I said breathlessly, "he wasn't following you today, he was waiting." He nodded faintly. "I know, and that bracelet," I whispered. He closed his eyes. "It wasn't sent as a memory," he said. "It was a warning." "A warning about what?" He looked up at me, eyes glistening. "That he's back." "And Ava?" I asked. He swallowed hard. "If she was alive in 2019, then he didn't erase her that night." His voice broke. "He kept her." Lena clutched him tighter. Calder hurried over. "He got away into the trees," he said. "But we know who he is. We'll issue a statewide alert. He can't hide forever." My breath came out in a cloud of frost. "Calder," I said, "this isn't over." He nodded. "No, this is the beginning." Because the man who controlled Ava, the man who stalked her, the man who likely ended her life had just resurfaced. Not to mourn, not to repent, but to finish the story he started 7 years ago, and the next chapter would be written in danger. The forest swallowed the last echo of the fleeing man, leaving behind only heavy breaths, distant sirens, and the crushing realization that we had not stopped him, only disturbed him. Detective Calder radioed officers through the clearing while Mark leaned against Lena, blood trickling down his cheek, his breath still unsteady. Snowflakes landed on him gently, contradicting the violence he had just endured. "We need to get you checked out," I told him. He shook his head firmly. "No, not yet. I need to talk. I need to remember everything." But I already knew what was haunting him. He wasn't trying to remember. He was trying to understand. Understand why Ava ran, understand who her father really was, understand what she feared enough to vanish twice, once from Mark, then from life itself. Calder approached us, eyes stern but compassionate. "He's gone for now, but he's not far. We'll run scent trails, drones, roadblocks. He's on foot. Snow will slow him." "It won't stop him," I said. "He's been preparing for this moment for 7 years." Calder exhaled. "That's what worries me." We escorted Mark and Lena back to the trailhead, where emergency lights painted the snow in red and blue. Officers gathered, exchanging updates. A medic insisted on checking Mark's injuries. He resisted, but Lena's trembling insistence finally got through to him. I stepped aside, letting them have a moment. My phone buzzed. "Calder, come to my car, now." I walked over. When he opened the passenger door, a computer screen illuminated the interior. It displayed 2 photographs. The first, Ava smiling, soft, warm. The second, the man from the woods, Ava's father. Younger, sharper features, eyes hard like stone. Calder tapped the screen. "We dug into his background," he said. "Not easy, he changed his name twice, but here's what matters." He clicked again, a criminal record unfolded. Charges for coercion, harassment. A restraining order filed by Ava's mother years ago, long before Ava vanished. Patterns of psychological dominance. But then something stood out. A document from a psychiatric facility, a commitment order, short-term hold. "Her father was institutionalized?" I asked, shocked. "For 9 months," Calder confirmed. "Released a year before Ava disappeared." My breath hitched. "A year before Christmas Eve 2017. Calder nodded grimly. "And guess who checked her out of the hospital on the day she was discharged? Her father." "But Maya said," I began. "Maya didn't know," he said. "Their mother kept it from the girls. Thought it would protect them." I rubbed my temples, the pieces shifting, rearranging. So Ava grew up under a man with controlling tendencies, a man with history, a man who disappears from records, then reappears right before her life falls apart. Calder nodded. "But it gets worse," he said. "There's something else in here." He clicked. Another file opened, a custody petition, filed by Ava's father, not for a child, for Ava herself. "When was this filed?" I asked. 3 weeks before she went missing." Cold spread through my chest. He tried to claim she was mentally unstable, said she wasn't capable of taking care of herself. He cited emotional dependence and paranoia. He built a case to control her legally. And the court, I asked, dismissed it. Insufficient evidence, but it tells us the truth. I swallowed hard. He wasn't watching her, I whispered. He was hunting her. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text. Unknown number, stop looking for her. A chill pierced my spine. A second message came instantly. You don't understand what she was, what she did. A third. Mark needs to let her go, or he will disappear too. I showed Calder. His face hardened. He has your number. He's watching you. I exhaled, not in fear, but in understanding that this case had just crossed a line. Calder typed quickly. We can trace the number, he said. Burner or not, we'll get last tower ping. Before he could finish, another text appeared. You think you can trace me? You think you know the truth? You don't even know what you're looking at. And then a fourth message, this one with a photo attached. I opened it, and my breath stopped. It was a picture of Ava, but not the old one from 2019. This one was newer, clearer, closer. Her eyes were wide, frightened, looking directly into the camera. Fresh snow dusted her hair. She was alive, alive. I staggered back. Calder grabbed my arm. Nora, what is it? I turned the screen toward him, his entire face drained. This can't be, he whispered, but it was. Ava alive now. Lena approached us cautiously. Nora, she said, what's wrong? I couldn't speak. Mark limped toward us too, still holding his side. When he saw the phone, his face crumpled. His hands shook. He touched the screen with the gentleness of someone touching a ghost. Ava, he whispered, tears filled his eyes. She's alive. Lena watched him, tearing up not from jealousy or pain, but from the overwhelming complexity of loving someone who was grieving someone else's life. Nora, she whispered, who sent that picture? Before I could answer, another message arrived. A voice note, only 3 seconds long, a woman's voice, weak, strained, barely recognizable but unmistakable to Mark. His entire body froze when the sound played. Nora, Mark, please stop, don't look, don't. The recording cut off abruptly. Mark stumbled back like he'd been struck. That's her, he whispered. Her voice, I know her voice, she's alive. She's alive, Lena supported him as tears streamed down his face. But Calder wasn't celebrating, his jaw was clenched, eyes narrowed. Nora, he said quietly, this wasn't sent to give us hope. I looked at him. This was sent to control us, he continued. To lure us, to push us where he wants us. He's not afraid of us finding Ava, he wants us to try. But why? I asked. Because he has the advantage, Calder said. He knows the forest, he knows the terrain, he knows Ava's mental state, and now he knows we're desperate. Mark wiped his face, shaking. We have to find her now, tonight. Calder grabbed his shoulder firmly. Mark, listen to me. This isn't about searching anymore. This is about survival. If we go in blind, he'll lead us right into a trap. Mark looked at him with a kind of broken fury. I don't care. I stepped in front of him. Mark. Look at me, he did. You are not going into those woods alone, not with a man who has spent years manipulating and hunting his own daughter. Mark's voice cracked. But she called for us. I know, I said softly. And that means she trusts you. It means she's fighting. It means she's still herself. Calder checked his radio. Officers will sweep the perimeter, but Nora, his eyes hardened. He won't let her go. Lena's voice, soft, steady, broke the tension. What does he want? Calder looked at her. Control, power, fear, and most of all, the same thing he has always wanted. What? Lena whispered. Calder exhaled. To keep Ava exactly where he believes she belongs. Silence fell, but I wasn't thinking about the father anymore. I was thinking about the final line in Ava's voice note. Don't look, don't what, don't follow, don't search. Don't trust, or something else, something coded, something desperate. Then it hit me. Those weren't her final words. The audio cut abruptly, interrupted, cut off mid-sentence. Ava didn't say don't. She began saying don't let him, something was missing, something important. And I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Ava wasn't telling us to stop, she was warning us to hurry. Because if that photo was recent, if her voice was that weak, if he knew we were looking, then Ava wasn't just alive. Ava was running out of time. The night tightened around us like a closing fist. Red and blue emergency lights flickered across the snow. Officers spread through the forest edges, tracking prints, scanning thermal signatures, but every second felt heavier than the last. The newest photo of Ava still glowed on my phone, her face pale, her eyes full of terror. Snow dusted in her hair, alive, barely. Mark hadn't stopped staring at it since he saw it. His hands shook so badly that Lena held them steady. She didn't speak, she just stood beside him, supporting him through a heartbreak that wasn't hers but hurt her all the same. Detective Calder's voice cut through the tension. We traced the text signal, he said. Single tower hit. He's close, within a 2-mile radius, probably still in these woods. I scanned the trees. But this forest is massive, I said. We need something more specific. Mark finally tore his eyes from the photo and whispered. There's a cabin. Calder's head snapped toward him. What cabin? Mark inhaled shakily. Years ago, Ava and I were hiking in this area. We found an old, abandoned ranger cabin. Half collapsed, she liked it. Said it felt quiet, like a place no one else could reach. Where is it? Calder asked. Deep in, Mark said. About a mile past the riverbend. Most people don't know it exists. It's not on the public trail maps. a place no one could reach, a place hidden, an ideal place for a man who wanted to keep his daughter isolated from the world. That's where she is, Mark whispered. I can feel it. I know it, I looked at Calder, he nodded sharply. We'll move. Before he could call it in, another vibration buzzed through my phone. Another message, another photo. I opened it, and everything inside me froze. This one was different. Ava wasn't alone. She was seated on the floor of a dim cabin, ropes around her wrists, her hair disheveled, her breathing shallow. Behind her, partially in shadow, stood her father. His hand was on her shoulder. His face was turned toward the camera. He was smiling, not triumphant, not mocking. A calm, chilling smile of a man who believed he was right. Mark made a strangled sound, stepping back like the image physically struck him. No, no, he whispered, voice breaking. He has her again. Lena clutched him tighter. Calder looked at me, then at the woods. This ends tonight, he said. We moved. Officers spread out. Flashlights cut through the darkness. Dogs barked in the distance. The forest seemed to lean closer, listening, holding its breath. We ran deeper into the woods, Mark, Lena, Calder, and I, following fresh prints, broken branches, the faint echo of water rushing nearby. My lungs burned, cold bit my face, but fear pushed me faster. At the riverbend, Mark pointed left. There, up that slope, we climbed. Branches scraped our coats. Snow slipped beneath our boots. The world was a dark painting smeared with shadows. Then finally, through the trees, a light, dim yellow, flickering like a heartbeat. The cabin half collapsed on one side. Roof slanted, door broken but standing. Smoke drifting from a chimney that shouldn't have been working. Calder signaled the officers to circle. Mark stepped forward, but Calder grabbed his arm. Not yet, he whispered. We do this clean. We do this safe. But before we could move, before anyone could breathe, a scream. A woman's scream, raw, pained, terrified. Ava, Mark choked out. He bolted. Calder swore and ran after him. Lena and I followed. The cabin door slammed open as Mark burst inside. And then everything unfolded in a single, chaotic heartbeat. Inside the dim room, lit only by a lantern, Ava lay slumped against a wall, wrists bound. Her father stood over her, holding her chin in his hand as if controlling her like a puppet. When Mark entered, the father turned, eyes filled with cold calculation. So, he said quietly, you came. Mark didn't hesitate. Let her go, her father tilted his head. She doesn't belong to you. She never belonged to you, Mark shouted. He moved closer, fists shaking. You kept her hidden, you hurt her, She was weak, the father said simply. She needed structure, I provided that. Structure, I shouted from behind. You kidnapped her, you destroyed her life. He looked at me calmly. I saved her. No, Mark said, voice breaking. If she needed saving, she would have come to me. Her father's expression darkened. She left you. No, Mark whispered, tears sliding down his face. You stole her. Ava stirred then, lifting her head. Her eyes, swollen, exhausted, locked onto Mark. Her lips trembled. Mark, his breath shattered. He stepped toward her, but her father shoved him back with surprising strength. That's close enough. Calder entered behind us, gun drawn. Step away from her, now. A flicker of rage crossed the father's face. You don't understand, none of you understand. She wasn't safe out there, she wasn't thinking clearly. People used her. You used her, I yelled. He looked at me, eyes sharp. She was my daughter. And you controlled her, I said. You followed her, you scared her, you forced her into a life she didn't choose. Ava's voice, barely a whisper, broke the air. Dad, please. Stop. For the first time, the father faltered. His grip loosened. His eyes flickered with something real, pain maybe. Ava, he whispered, I did everything for you, everything. You were slipping away, leaving me. Choosing strangers over your own blood. Ava's tears fell. I wasn't slipping away, she whispered. I was growing up. Calder advanced step by step. This ends here. Her father straightened, rage replacing emotion. No, he said. She's not going with you. He reached for her, Mark lunged. A collision, a struggle, a blur of movement and shouts. I rushed forward and grabbed Ava, pulling her free from her bindings. Her body collapsed into mine, trembling violently. Behind us, Calder tackled her father to the ground. Officers surged in. Handcuffs clicked. Shouts filled the air. The father fought like a man possessed, screaming, thrashing, shouting Ava's name until a final metallic snap silenced him. He was restrained, dragged from the cabin. The night swallowed his voice. And then there was only Ava, shaking, weak, alive. Mark knelt beside her, tears streaming. Ava, I thought you were gone, I thought. She reached for his face, fingers trembling. I never stopped loving you, she whispered. I just couldn't get to you, he wouldn't let me. Mark sobbed openly. Lena stepped back, hand over her heart, eyes full of empathy, not jealousy, not pain, but understanding. Ava looked at me then. You're Nora, she whispered. I heard your name, thank you. I held her hand. You're safe now, she nodded weakly. I was trying to send messages, notes, anything, but he always found them. Except one, I said. The bracelet, she let out a faint, broken laugh. He kept it. He said it reminded me of who I was supposed to be. He mailed it, I said, to warn us. To lure you, Ava corrected. He wanted to control the ending. But he didn't, Mark whispered. You did. Her eyes softened. Mark, I'm sorry for everything, for leaving, for not calling, for disappearing. He held her hand gently. You didn't leave me, he said. You were taken. I looked at Lena, who watched quietly. She wasn't threatened. She wasn't abandoned. She understood something profound. Mark had loved Ava deeply, but he didn't love her instead of Lena. He loved her before Lena, two different stories, two different times, two different truths. Lena knelt beside Ava. "I'm glad you're alive," she said softly. Mark needed closure. "You deserved freedom." Ava gave her a fragile, grateful smile. "Thank you for loving him." Tears fell down Lena's face. "And thank you," she whispered, "for letting him go when you couldn't stay." Outside, officers loaded the father into a patrol car. Calder walked in. "Ambulance is ready," he said softly. "Let's get her home." Ava nodded faintly. And as we escorted her out of that decaying cabin, out of the prison she'd endured for years, one truth settled heavily in my chest. Sometimes love stories don't end because two people choose different lives. Sometimes they end because someone stole the ending. But what matters is what happens next. Ava healed. Mark found closure. Lena found understanding. And the man who caused all the pain was locked away, unable to rewrite anyone's story again. As we stepped into the cold night, Ava looked up at the falling snow and whispered, "I'm finally free." Mark squeezed her hand. "You always were," he whispered. "You just needed someone to find you." And that's when the hardest truth settled in. Closure doesn't always come from reunion. Sometimes it comes from rescue. Sometimes it comes from truth. Sometimes it comes from letting the past breathe just long enough to say goodbye. This case reminded me that love doesn't live in perfect endings. Love lives in survival, in courage, in the choice to rise again. Ava rose, Mark rose. Lena rose, and the story, though painful, ended not in heartbreak but in healing. Because some Christmas gifts aren't meant to break a marriage. Some are meant to bring truth to light so the people who deserve peace can finally have it.